So we're going to make this cube, which is going to be a 115 by 115 cube in this card. So the card we're using today is about 1 millimeter or so thick. So we're going to have to allow for that in our dimensions. So the first thing we do is to get the card and find the center line. So I know this is about 420 mil across, and we deal with millimeters in this course. So everything has to be precise. So the first thing we do is to use our steel rule to get the center line. Now I'm using the clutch pencil, which is, as we said before, has got a consistent sort of lead in it. No matter what you draw, unlike an ordinary pencil, it remains the same. This is a 0.5 HB, and HB referring to the actual weight that the lead has, as in how dark it is. HB is a sort of middle of the road. Please don't use a 2H, it's too light and too sharp. You have to lean too much with it, and similarly 2B or any of the heavier leads leave a kind of a messy line. So just set up that center line. It's going to be 115, so whatever that divided by 2 is, what is it, 57.5. so we again measure, this is measured in half mils, so 115, so we put in our little nicks to get our center line, both sides, 57.5, 115, go down, join those together, and that's the main body of it. That's going to remain fairly consistent. Now, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw this. Generally when you're making a box, there's any number of ways, and you can look on YouTube or whatever if there's any number of ways to construct a box there, but we're going to use a sort of a standard sort of cruciform or sort of X-shaped setup. So we're going to leave tabs on it to allow us to glue the box together. So we're going to leave 20 mil tabs. So the first thing we'll do is to probably draw in those 20 mil tabs. So we'll just mark off our sort of 20 mil at the start, and we draw our line across. Next we're going to draw our first edge there. This is going to be the vertical edge, so this is going to be pretty much around the 115 mark. Draw 2 little lines. We're going to draw right through this, because this is where we're going to add the second sides into it. So right through that. This one we're going to leave a little bit smaller, or a little bit smaller. So we're going to reduce this because we're going to have 2 folds. We're going to take 2.5 mil off that. So we're going to make this 112.5, and hopefully that will work out. It is, to be honest with you, a little bit of a trial thing. Sometimes these curves, if you're a fraction out, when you're folding the thing, it'll push the thing out of kilter a bit, but generally this should work. We're going down 115 here as well, and out 115, and similarly here. So then the next thing we need to do is to put in our tabs for this. So we're going to have tabs this side, 20 mil tabs. Okay, so the next thing we do is we need to add on this side of it here. Fix those tabs up in a minute. So we're going to add on this side, which is another 115. And then we're going to add in the lid. It looks a bit off there. Okay, so, and then our next line, we'll make this, again, we'll take about 2.5 mil off it, hopefully it'll work. 112.5, 112.5, and then we're going to add another 20 mil on as a fold down tab to hopefully keep this box intact. So we're going to go in about 5 mil either side here, and it allows us to help the tab locate itself when we push it into the box. Now we need to have a tab on this side as well, 2 tabs actually. So just 1 second, bear with me. So just get over there. Okay, so this is, let's put tabs in here. So we go down 5 mil either side here, 5, and here as well. We put in our, let's bring these down a bit now. There's one small thing, just to locate this box. I'm going to reduce this, bring this tab back here on this side, back down by about 20 mil, and that is going to actually allow our box to go together a little bit easier. So again, I know you don't, measuring these little things seems like a bit of an indulgence, but at the end of the day, it'll all go together fairly smartly if you sort of measure them as opposed to draw on these tabs by eye. It'll work out better. So that's one tab. Repeat over here. And bring it in by 20 mil. And our top thing here also needs a tab. So, the next thing we need to do is do one on this side. Here. And 20 mil, 5 mil either side here. So that's pretty much where it needs to be. So that's what you do here, and I'm going to post that, we're going to take a copy of that and we post it. So basically what you got to do is to start cutting this out, you got to get your flat, always cut on the flat. And as I was suggesting yesterday, we use these X-Acto knives. X-Acto knives are good in that they've got a fairly strong blade and you can put a bit of pressure on them. They're much sharper than Stanley knives, and also they're better than scalpel blades, which have basically got a much thinner blade and is prone to breaking when you put pressure on them. So, but they are good, and if you go for a scalpel, that's okay as well. But when you're doing it, so what you'd have to do is just make sure you locate the thing. You locate where you're going to cut out. So effectively, just make sure your ruler is lined up with the thing. It sounds like common sense, and then the blade, these blades will only cut out about 4 or 5 of these entire shapes before they start getting blunt. And when they start getting blunt, they start dragging the side of the card and you start getting this raggedy edge to it. So we want to try and get sharp blades. They cost about $3.50 in Eason's. I think Linex or something is the name of this brand, but Exacto is the brand of the thing. So those blades are pretty good, and I would absolutely encourage you to get a blade of some sort, your own personal knife that and blades, because you'll need it whatever you're doing, cutting card, you know, crafting or whatever. It's invaluable. Everybody needs to have something, and it needs to be, and they need to have spare blades, because that's the key to it. As I said, I've seen ceramic blades that last 10 times longer, but the only issue with ceramic blades is that they're about 10 times the price, and B, they don't have a very sharp point. And this fact that this blade comes to a sharp point as opposed to some scalpel points means that when you're cutting things like circles, means that you can follow the line very carefully with the point of the blade. So this is kind of coming out fairly sharply. Now, we may as well cut it all out and see how it turns out. Hopefully it will. Again, you see, you're always drawing the blade towards you. You know, you're pulling the blade. And allows you to stop precisely as well at this point, you know, as opposed to a bigger blade. So don't go cutting in unnecessarily into your piece. Keep it neat. And it's funny, even though this is a new blade, I can immediately feel that it's starting to lose its edge. And that seems a bit indulgent to be changing blades the whole time. But when you're cutting out a workpiece that's going to be graded or whatever, you know, it's important that it's neat. Right, so with a few tweaks in terms of what we're cutting out, we're going to start cutting this out again, and as I say, just make sure everything's lined up. And scored right through. So hopefully this one will work out. And then you're moving it around. See the way you're moving the card around. The reason for that is you cut when you're drawing the blade towards you, you cut more effectively, and drawing as well. You know, move the page around so that you're basically, it's coming in your direction. It just makes it easier to control, as opposed to trying to move it up here and trying to do that. It doesn't work as well. So keep spinning it around. Now, I mean, we've done this on the white side. Possibly the easier way would have been to do it to draw it on the dark side of the card, but it's easier to see here. So cutting all this out. So okay, so we've cut it out, and I'm going to give the template, I'm going to put the template inside, make it accessible to you guys, and we put the dimensions on it as well, so you'll know what to do. Now we're going to arrange the shapes, you know, on the surface of it. What we want to do is cut out circles and squares that will be, you know, the holes for putting the geometric shapes through. So we want to find the center points, you know, of these panels. So we're basically going to join the diagonals of them. So we, you know, put a line between the two diagonals, and then we are going to put in a circle here and cut that out. So we take our compass and This one we're going to make, because we're doing a sphere, and invariably the sphere is going to end up, we're going to have to do a lot of sanding to get the sphere right. So we're going to make this sphere, give the sphere a 45 millimeter diameter. So we put a radius of 22.5 on that, and then in theory we should make a sphere that will fit in exactly into that. So we draw our line around here. So that's diameter 45. So when we're cutting this, as I say, on the flat, you know, these pointed sort of blades are the most effective for cutting out anything that you need to, you know, follow a line. They're very sharp, so just put your initial line through the shape. Trying to follow this as carefully as you can. And you're turning the piece around so that you're drawing the blade towards you. If you leave it in the same position, you're trying to get the same degree of, you know, weight on the blade, or trying to cut it when it's in an awkward position. It's not as easy. So keep turning this around, and hopefully we'll get it. Decent cut out. So that's a bit there to finish off. But that's that, and the squares, you know, are the same. This square here we can leave as a square, so we can cut this out, and then we don't want to go, you know, we don't want to have cut lines on the thing outside of the square, so push in there at that point and then follow the line down to where it needs to be, and, you know, stop at that point, as in don't cut outside the square. If you can't see where your cut line is, put an extra mark there so you'll know when to stop the blade. Again, constantly turning the page around so that you're cutting it appropriately. Now, I could finish this one off with a So that's your square. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to, I've marked these points, these fold lines on the other side, so I've got lines here already. I've just followed them through the edge and put that, and we're going to put some sort of a score line so that it will make it easier for us to fold the thing. Fold the piece together. So we're going to use the rounded edge of the ruler, but you can use a knife, and, you know, a rounded knife. Look for something that isn't so sharp, that's going to score it and not go through it, not cut it, and yet, you know, if you don't score it enough, it's going to start getting creased on the other side. So we want to put a decent indent on this side, so in theory it'll work. Okay, so this is the one we were doing. This is the whole perfect square, and it's cut out like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one in. If we look at this and the way it goes together. So what I did was when I scored it, when I had my ruler down and I scored, you know, along the lines and had it perfect. Holding this here and use the round end of the ruler or whatever you can find, or knife, make a big score. And what you have to do is you got this around and you put your hands here, you fold it all the way along so that it doesn't kink, so that you get a nice neat, you know, line along here. So all the lines, including these ones that you scored, you bring up in one action so that you have, you know, this neatly folded thing. So in theory, when we put this together, we should have. Now these tabs here on the top stop the lid from going down any further, going into the box. So the lid should pull down when that's glued on there. And then this part should, in theory, fit in here. We've left a bit of a gap because we stopped our tab here short to allow this tab to go in. So that tab, when that's glued together, that tab should sit in, and that should make a pretty perfect box. In theory. So that's what we're looking for. This one folds in, and we're going to keep this one, and I'm going to put the dimensions of this one up on. I'm going to leave this inside, so you'll have access to this with the dimensions written on it. So all you need to do is basically copy this one. Here's one we made earlier, which has a different. It is a different sort of a lid on it. It's a slightly longer. It folds. It closes a different way. You know, if you have a different system for closing this, or you know, you're welcome to do it, as long as it makes a generally closed cube with the appropriate holes in it for your shape. So all of these, I'm using double-sided, so I would like you to use, the best thing to glue this together is something like Bostik, an ordinary household glue. You who are Bostik are just ideal. You need to hold them together for a while in order for the glue to go off a bit, but you know, they're excellent glues for this purpose, for a card. Now you can get Pritt stick as well, but Pritt stick tends to be messy in general. You know, there is an extra strong Pritt stick. It's not a Pritt brand, but there's an extra strong glue stick which is very, very effective for gluing card. I'm not sure, I think it's called Extreme Glue or something, but it's like a Pritt stick, only it's just the business. So I'm using double-sided here, so this is a one-shot pony. If this won't come apart, so that will form a good bond there. And then this one here will close. So just in terms of glues, you know, as well, you can use photo mount. Photo mount is this permanent version of spray mount, which again is a great glue for gluing sort of wider surfaces, especially when you're gluing a sheet onto a piece of card or something. I would really highly advise against using Pritt stick because it's the messiest stuff. It comes off the edges. So that's just using double-sided tape there, and we have a thing here that we have a different top, you know, closing surface there. But again, this one here will be, this fold is on the outside and it's going into a tab there. This one is designed, the top of it is slightly smaller and it folds inside, and we've compensated for where this will fold inside by leaving a gap there. So that's pretty much that. The next thing you need to do is to make the actual shapes themselves in foam. So put that aside, you'll have access to that, and I leave these inside and just try and do it the same thing. So in terms of our foam, so we've been given these sections of foam here. So what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to do is make a pyramid. So so we take, you know, a certain size here. Well, let's take 70 mil. So we're going to use our square here to go around the surface of it. This is the lighter foam. There are, as I mentioned before, there are 3 different types of foam. They're very dense. Well, there's infinite amounts of types of foam, but what we have here predominantly are these sort of medium or strong, medium and light foam. So we get that. We're going to use this to cut across it. So again, if you leave a little bit extra, it allows you to cut it off after the event. So hold on to the foam as well so it doesn't snap off and then leave a ragged edge. So we have our line there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw. We'll set up for a few of these first of all. So this is 50 mil, so 25 mil, and then we are going to bring our line down to the edge. And then the other side, 25 mil again up to the top and down to the sharp side. I'm sure a pen will draw this, but again I'd advocate a clutch pencil for all of these things. It's highly effective. So the next thing we got to do is we're going to cut off these edges here. So again, I'd leave it, you know, at least 3 to 4 mil. Now, what I didn't do and what might be effective for you is to actually draw, you know, this line across the top line. It'll just give you, just make sure that you don't hit it when you're sawing, or give you a guide. So again, it's going to come down here. So this is what we start up. That's going to be the start of our triangle. So if you just bear with me, I'll get some. Okay, so this is our 150 grit sandpaper. As I was saying before, like, these things are invaluable. If you have a board, if you get a board, a piece of MDF, 18 mil MDF or whatever, and glue or double side some sandpaper in the various grits, 150, you know, 100, 150, you know, even this is 220 here. They're really effective and really good for just to have yourself for all sorts of model making. So I would strongly encourage you to just make one of these things up. So what we're doing with the sanding is, now the thing is, when you're sanding, if you sand like that, naturally your arm's going to make a kind of a curve. So you kind of have to be careful. You've got to keep looking at it to make sure that the surfaces are not. First of all, this 150 will cut through this foam really effectively. You've got to make sure you're not going in over the line, but also that you're not getting a curved thing. So if you rotate it along, it'll only take a second to get rid of the material, but then once it's gone, it's gone. You can't put it back. So you just need a little bit of and you see, I'm moving to parts of the sandpaper that are not full of foam. The foam will stop it being clog the grit, and it won't cut as effectively. What we were doing here is we were going to make the pyramid. So we had already cut our 2 shapes up and brought it fairly accurately up to the line. This is 150 grit, and then we have our fine stuff here, which is 220. So what I've done here is I've drawn a line at the apex and brought up 2 lines either. Well, we haven't done it on that side, so we'll bring our line up to that. We have our pencil. 1 second. So, we're going to bring this line up here along the edge to your point. And just by doing the lines on both sides, whether you're cutting out a cylinder or a cone or whatever, by having the lines, as many lines as you can on either side, it really does help you to sort of eye up where stuff is, you know, whether you're cutting it straight or whatever, because there's no, as opposed to a normal, you know, wood saw, this isn't really kind of self-guiding. A wood saw has a fairly good chance of cutting a straight line where it keeps its direction. This stuff goes everywhere. So we have our general shape there. So what we're going to do is we're going to sand down to the line, just again keeping it an eye that you're not going beyond the line, and also you're trying to keep the bottom line as a square, so you're not over sanding it. So in this one here, so, and then you finish it off on your 220 grate. And that's it, and ideally then the bottom of this should be a square. So that's that, and that should fit into one of these holes snugly. So that's the pyramid. The next one we're going to do very quickly is the sphere. So just in terms of doing this sphere, what I would suggest is you start off with your block and you turn it into a general ball of, you know, approximately 50 mil. Our finish size, because I know it's going to take a bit of work, is 45 mil diameter, which is smaller than this thing. So what you're going to do is effectively go around all the corners with the rasp and try and slowly knock the corners off it, as it were. The important thing is to constantly rotate it. And keep looking at it and just making sure that it looks like it's generally this is the sort of thing you should be, you can do when you're sitting down watching TV or something, getting it right. Now, when you've got to about there, and it's looking fairly good, or it's getting generally to the thing, then you can start, using your sandpaper. And again, it's a matter of constantly going around it You know, if you have these things, you can use the straight boards in terms of abrasive stuff. You have to just keep rotating it around and checking it out to see, does it generally look as though it's going in the right direction. Now, so you keep sanding that, again, by hand, you know, just sanding it, rotating it, having a look. And what might be helpful is to actually get, to make up a little template. So if you had an extra, you know, piece of paper and you came along and just drew in your 50mm, you know, got a sheet which effectively had, you know, your semicircle drawn in it, and cut that semicircle out, then you could come along to your piece, to the ball that you have, and you could put it up against it and just check how it is on each side, and is it coming down. And eventually, when you're finished, in theory, sanding all of this, you should get a sort of a ball that's vaguely, you know, vaguely spherical. You know, you have a bit to come down in that one. So we start off with 50mm, it's coming down to 45, but in theory, when you have it done properly, it should fit, you know, it should be absolutely, you know, snug and should fit into that perfectly. So that's the thing. It's just a matter of having some patience, not over sanding it, and you know, it's not going to take too long. If you put your mind to it, you could have that sorted out in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you know, so not a big deal. And then, so we also have our other shapes we're going to do is, at the top I was suggesting you do an extruded triangle. This one's going to be the bottom of our pyramid, and then this one we're going to make a cube, and we're going to take the corners off it. So again, just one quick point about that one is that if you're doing the cube, and if we just measure this out as being 50mm, just one very quick point on this shape, and we leave it at that. So you take this out, put it there, finger to guide it, and then hold it at the top so that it doesn't snap off, and then slow down the cut so it's neat. So there's your cube, and then what we want to do is, in terms of this, again, I would suggest that you take this and you get a compass and you draw a 10mm, you know, you have a line, and you make a, you know, a 10mm, you know, rad there, a radius, draw a circle, cut out that section so that you have a little template. And then what we're going to do is, so what you'll do is you'll draw in with a compass. I don't have a compass here to hand, but measuring it, you'll draw in a 10mm radius here, here, you know, on your four corners, and you could do a corresponding one on this side, okay? So that you have a rad here and a rad here, and then what you're going to do is you're basically going to, on your rough stuff, holding this level, you're going to sand it on the flat. Just take it. It only takes a second to make the radius. It really only takes a small amount. So it's just a matter of taking a small bit of time with it, and then when it gets closer to the thing, you can use. And if you cut out your little template there, what you can do is you can put your template against that and just see is it even. So there's that. So you'll do the four corners there, and you will also have. Sorry, I would suggest that in, you know, or in advance of that, actually the template will be good for doing the ones that you can't put a straight line, because when you knock the corners off, you won't have a rad there. So the template will allow you to put the template up along it and just see, is it going to be, is it going to have a 10mm radius on it. So that's the thing, you're going to do all the corners there. Again, shouldn't take that long, it's just about accuracy and taking your time. That's it all.